as parents, understand that cell phones and smartphones in our kids' hands in school means they're not paying attention. You know how you are in a meeting at work when you're holding your cell phone. How do you think your kids are? Worse. But our next guest says these bans on smartphones in our schools, it's really only the first step. So excited to talk to Jean Twenge, who has just published a book called 10 Rules for Raising Kids in a High-Tech World. This weekend, she had an opinion piece in the New York Times that I just thought was fascinating. It's entitled The Screen That Ate Your Child's Education. And Jean Twenge is with us on the John Schuster Coldwell Banker Hotline right now. Jean, it's good to visit with you.
Thanks for having me on.
I know you have a Minnesota connection, so we love someone who's one of us. You grew up here in your screen-free adolescent years, right?
So I'm originally from Winona, and my family is from the middle of the state, Sauk Center area, Melrose, and Wilmer.
Awesome. Now, you probably grew up like I did with I remember our first computer, but it certainly wasn't. The Texas Instruments 99.4A was not going to be hauled to school. In school, we went to school, we paid attention, and we read and we listened, and that was it. You have found what any parent knows or suspects, I think, that kids have so many distractions and so many screens, and it's not just their phones in school.
That's the real challenge now in middle schools and high schools, even a lot of elementary grades. Children are given a tablet or a laptop by the school. And that at least seems like it might be good for keeping up with assignments and doing things at home. But the problem is they're very distracting. They're not just locked down to, say, the Canvas page for the class or Google Docs. Instead, many of them have access to YouTube. Many of them have access to streaming services. And then they bring them home. Their parents can't put parental controls on them. It's, Mom, I'm doing my homework. And they're watching Disney Plus or they're watching YouTube for hours on end. Because exactly like you said, how can we expect kids to focus on their homework while all of these distractions when that's so difficult for adults?
I was wrong about this. Like, I remember when my kids got their Chromebook and I thought, this is perfect. Like, in the real world, kids need to learn how to use technology. Teachers are going to come up with cool ways with their interactive whiteboards to have these lessons that are going to have kids researching. And how did we go wrong? Because the promise of this, at least on if you're like a pro technology person, seemed good. Like, it seemed good.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have happened that way, particularly in education, where it seems like a great idea in theory, and then in practice, it doesn't turn out so well. I think there's a couple things going on here. One is, I think we didn't go into these technologies with a deep understanding of how the brain works, especially among adolescents for learning, because there's a bunch of studies now showing that, for example, students who take notes on paper through handwriting absorb the information better than if they're typing. And some of that's due to distraction, and some of that's just due to the way the brain works, that there's something in writing things out that helps people remember it and process it on a deeper level.
Oh, I used to make fun of my wife back when we were dating in college. Some of our dates, and I'm not kidding, were her recopying her notes in her notebook. But it was how it sort of locked it in. She was right.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a bunch of studies on this now. Yep. And I think that distraction piece is the other problem, because if kids were using these laptops just to do educational things, it would work out a lot better. But kids find workarounds. That's problem one. Problem two is, and I'm a parent of 3 teenagers myself. I know this,
yep.
hard experience, that they're not locked down. One of the reasons I wrote this op-ed is my 13-year-old, 8th grader, turns out she was watching a show on Disney Plus on the school laptop. Like, why is that not blocked in the school laptop?
Right.
How hard can
Right.
that be to block streaming services?
Why isn't it
But
blocked?
exactly. And I have no idea. And I haven't been able to get any answers out of the school about why that. And she told me the other day, oh, everybody's doing that. Everybody's watching Disney
Yeah.
Plus on their laptop.
Yep.
Because, of course, they are.
Yeah, it's understandable, right? And I think the ultimate evidence here is the fact that the test scores suck. I mean, there's no, if this worked, if there were benefit to every kid having a screen or every kid having a Chromebook, that sort of a deal, we would see some benefits, but I haven't seen it.
No, and it's not showing up in the test scores either. So the National Assessment of Educational Progress is kind of the gold standard here. And those scores have been rising. Things have been getting better in terms of students learning from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s, the 2000s. And then at the beginning of the 2010s, just when these technologies started to come in, those scores started to drop. And this has happened around the world too. It's not even just the US. Scores in Western Europe, way down. Same pattern.
So interesting because it's easy, I think, and we're talking with Dr. Jean Twenge, who is a psychiatry professor at psychology, big difference. Psychology professor at San Diego State University. The book that is just out is called 10 Rules for Raising Kids in a High-Tech World. And it's easy to blame this on social media. I think originally I thought, I think social media is the problem. Kids are distracted. They're seeing notifications, they're getting text, they're getting email, whatever. If we take that away, they'll be fine. But not the case, just not the case because those Chromebooks are just another screen.
Yeah, and there are a lot of problems. Social media is not good either. I think what we're really seeing is two big things happening. Social media is having a really negative effect on mental health, and that doesn't help with academic performance either. And then you're seeing the rise of platforms also like TikTok, and that compromises attention span. And then we have the Chromebooks where that's what you're supposed to be doing your homework on, and they're not locked down, and there's so many distractions on them. And parents are virtually powerless because we can't put parental controls on a school-issued device.
Right. Right. It's locked down in any way that would be meaningful to a parent, but not locked down in any way to stop kids from screwing around all day.
Exactly. And they don't shut down at night because my kids' personal devices, I have the controls on them.
Yeah.
So about a half hour before bedtime, it shuts down. You can't do that with a school laptop. So they could not only be watching streaming services, they could be doing it at 2 a.m. unless you're sleeping in the same room as your kids, and who wants to do that?
Gene, I was talking with a friend today who sends his kids to a school that has no laptops, has no screens. And he said that he's like, it's been a godsend, an unbelievable situation because those kids are paying attention. They're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do as a parent to try to, we've had some success policy-wise getting the schools to back off on smartphones and to ban smartphones. How is there any shot at this when it comes to sort of the laptop for every kid experiment?
I think so. I think more schools are starting to rethink this. I think, we rushed into it without having the data, and now we've got the data and we've had it for a little bit here. So that's the next frontier, is for policymakers and researchers and educators and parents to try to get rid of the Chromebooks.
Yeah.
Get back to the textbooks and the pencil and paper and kids actually paying attention. Look, kids have always doodled in their notebook and passed notes to each other and stuff, but that just pales in comparison to digital distractions.
Your book, which is called 10 Rules for Raising Kids in a High-Tech World, Dr. Jean Twenge is with us. This is the hot topic among my millennial parent friends. My kids are off at college now. I've sort of, my ability to control their anything is pretty much out the window now. But when you're in the zone that you're in, this is the topic. You talk about no social media until kids are 16, which is one of my parenting regrets. I wish I had instituted that policy. What are some of the other things that you think parents should think about?
Yeah. So one thing that's worked really well for us as a family is not giving a internet enabled smartphone really young, because when you do that, then they may be on social media and you never know
Yeah.
at the age of 11 or 12. And there's also just so many other temptations on phones, and then they have it in their pocket, and it's with them everywhere, and it's not a device that you're going to be, seeing what they're doing. So one of the rules is to give your kids basic phones as a first phone, and that used to mean a flip phone, but now there's a bunch of phones designed for kids. So like Pinwheel, Trumi, Bark, Gab, and most of them do not allow any social media at all. They don't allow AI companion apps like AI boyfriends and girlfriends, which is really good because that's the next big concern with our children.